Welcome to The Exchange. I'm Rob Cox of Reuters Breaking Views. I've got Adam Davidson as my guest today. He's a co-founder of NPR's Planet Money. He writes a column in the New York Times Magazine, and he wrote a great big cover story for The Atlantic recently on American manufacturing. Thanks for coming in, Adam.
Thanks so much.
So let's talk. You've got lots of things to talk about. One of the things that really caught my eye was your recent column about what does Wall Street do for you? It's a pretty interesting concept because most people are out there vilifying Wall Street, the concept of Wall Street. I don't think that's actually what they're vilifying, as you point out. They don't like the abuses. They don't like the arbitrage, as it were. But as you made a couple of good points, and let's go through them. I mean, what does Wall Street do for you? The reasons we like Wall Street, as it were.
Right, and it turns out if you want to get yelled at by a lot of people on the internet, this is a great column
Defend
to write.
Wall Street. There's no better way to get people excited.
And I, just want to point out, I'm not defending any particular institution or any particular bankers, and clearly huge mistakes have been made.
Wasn't it sponsored by Goldman Sachs?
Well, I get it. No,
I'm kidding.
But I've spent a lot of my career in very poor countries. I've spent a lot of the last 2 years in Haiti. I've spent a lot of time in Iraq and other pretty poor countries. And one thing you notice in countries that don't have a modern financial system is that capital, money, stays with the very wealthy. And the people who get access to money are basically the relatives of the very wealthy, in other words, other wealthy people, or people with ties to the government. And so you can have lots and lots of bright, energetic entrepreneurs. I certainly met many in Haiti, in Iraq, in other countries who just will never get their ideas funded, will never get their education funded, will never have the opportunity to follow where their ambition and ideas go. And then you see lots of kind of people who aren't that bright, who don't have great ideas, who do get funded just because of their connections. And I think there's just a basic function of financial intermediation that Wall Street does, connecting people who have more money than they need right now with people who have some reason to borrow money. Right. And there's so much talk about inequality and income mobility. I just thought it was good to point out that one of the reasons we have a middle class, one of the reasons we have as much income mobility as we have, although granted there are issues there and income mobility has clearly slowed down, but is because we have this vibrant...
We have capital formation happens in this country, and so risk capital will go where there are entrepreneurs who will take those risks, and on the other side you'll have people who are willing to basically risk their capital for the notion that potentially that entrepreneur will become the next, I don't know, Sergey Brin or someone like that.
Exactly. And then in just a more prosaic, mundane way, if you drive around Haiti or you drive around Iraq, I use those two examples because those are two countries I know very well, you see all...
They are clearly the extremes when we think
They are the extremes, but it's helpful sometimes to think about the extreme. There's so much land and so many buildings that you can't get a loan against. In Haiti, it's because there's no clarity of title and there's not really a very vibrant mortgage market. In Iraq, it was actually illegal to have a mortgage for more than something like a third of the value of your property. And what that means is there's all this potential capital just sitting around wasted while there's all these bright potential ideas that aren't funded. And we don't have that problem here. Clearly, we have different problems. We have too much money going to housing. And so when I shifted my focus from very poor countries to focusing more on the U.S. economy, just the perspective I had, which I think is different from people who've only ever covered the U.S. economy, is we have problems. We have real problems, no question. But, we have sort of a rich country's problems.
But a vibrant capital market where people put money to work, which helps, I mean, that is important, like the rule of law, which may be the other sort of corollary to that. But what went wrong? I guess it's worth thinking about where this has gone awry,
Yeah, I think that clearly a host of things have gone awry. I mean, obviously, if what we want Wall Street, if what we want financial intermediation to do is provide superior matching of borrowers with lenders, doing really good risk sharing, obviously they did a pretty poor job of that, an incredibly poor job of that. Also, I'm really taken with the work that's done by Viral Archaya and Matthew Richardson at NYU and a bunch of people that has really, these are an academic institution, NYU Stern School of Business, generally seen as a friendly to Wall Street. A lot of Wall Street people came out of there. But really digging into how over the last 10 to 15, even 20 years, the core way that many of the larger institutions on Wall Street have made money is not by providing superior financial intermediation, superior social benefit. It's by regulatory arbitrage, by playing around with the rules, which, as we've learned, is basically the inevitable result is they get to make a lot of money and the citizens have to pay for it. And so it's actually, and I'm not one to quickly jump to, oh, Wall Street's evil, or these, I think you have to make the case more deliberately, more slowly, but it does seem the case can be made that over the last 10 years, Wall Street has siphoned money away. They've been overall a tax on growth, not an addition to growth.
Yeah, and the social benefit has been diminished much by what Wall Street, the good stuff, as you point out in your piece. Yeah. The other article that you wrote, this one in the Atlantic about making it in America, was pretty interesting. Again, it's a slightly different topic, but this issue about the replacement of labor by capital, whatever it is, by machinery, productive measures like that. What was the thing you pulled away from in terms of a solution? Like, what's the answer to this hollowing out of American manufacturing?
So I really wanted to understand the texture, the mechanisms of this one really potent fact. People keep saying we don't make anything in America anymore. Oh, we don't make anything. That's not true. Right. Over the last decade, the dollar value of manufactured goods in America has gone up by a third. We've never made more in dollar value than we do now.
Depending on you don't need as many people to make it.
But you don't need as many people. In fact, as the dollar value has gone up by a third, employment has fallen by a third.
Right. So and that's since when? That's sort of like a
over the last decade. I forget the exact number, but since 2000 roughly.
Right.
And so, we went from 18 million roughly to 12 million manufacturing employees, and
the dollar value of the manufactured goods has gone up.
It has continued to go up.
I don't think people have looked at it quite from that perspective so much. It is a meme out there in the campaign trail, among other places, that we've lost jobs in America. Manufacturing is a big problem in America, and that is only part of that is true.
Right, manufacturing employment is a big problem.
Yeah.
Manufacturing seems to be overall pretty healthy. Obviously, there are sectors and particular types of manufacturing that are doing very poorly. By focusing just on one, I read so many abstract statistics. I wanted to really focus on one representative worker, this young woman, Maddie Parlier, 22, single mother, unskilled. And the way I define unskilled is how many manufacturing factory managers do, which is she can learn her skills in a few minutes, meaning she to the company is easily replaceable, as opposed to highly skilled people who take years and years to learn. And what I learned is U.S. manufacturing, to compete, needs to buy really big, really complicated, really expensive machinery, which means you need a really highly trained person to run it. So if you do have those skills, you're probably more valuable than you've ever been.
But once you've put that machine in, you've probably replaced a bunch of other
Then you've
tasks.
replaced a bunch of other tasks. And so if all you can bring to the table is you can do very basic things that can be easily taught to someone else just as quickly, you're in very, very shaky ground.
Right.
And it made me realize that for a large segment of Americans, by some counts as many as 80 million, the U.S. economy doesn't seem to have a clear need for the people with just a high school degree or less than a high school degree without specialized skills. And that's the first time in America, other than brief periods, that we've really not had a need for such a massive population. And that's scary. That's a big issue.
Scary. Well, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much. It's been really fun.
My guest today was Adam Davidson, who's a co-founder of NPR's Planet Money and has written some pretty interesting things in, among other places, New York Times and The Atlantic recently. I'm Rob Cox of Reuters Breaking News, and we'll be back soon.